Have you ever just wanted to fix the world, but you know you couldn't do it? I know I've spent my whole life trying to be a fixer, trying to be someone who felt like he could be the solution guy. And that's pretty much what I've been almost all my life. I've tried to be the solution for every problem that I could find. I mean, it seems that way anyway. But there was something happened years ago. This was back around 1990. So that was a long time ago. And the title of the live here is She Walked Away, but She Left Me with a Gift. But the truth is, she walked away, and I felt like I let her walk away. And it was not what you think. Actually, in my earlier life, I spent a lot of time in church as a youth minister, psychology degree, and worked with a lot of different churches and was working, putting my whole life into trying to help young people, trying to help them change their lives, doing everything I possibly could for others. I had just spent a couple of years in an orphanage as a home parent, doing everything I possibly could for children and trying to change as many lives as I possibly could, being a foster parent. Had about 31 foster children over the years and put everything I possibly could into trying to help as many people as I possibly could. And you know, you also have to ask yourself, why did I do that? Why did I dedicate myself to be sacrificial for others, do everything I possibly could? But there was something that happened one morning, and it was very early, and I don't talk about it much. In fact, after it happened, it was several years before I could even talk about it. Sometimes we go through those things in life that just shock us, shock our lives, shock our emotions, shock our cognitive thinking, and rearrange every bit of our subconscious programming to the point where we don't know which way's up and which way's down. And I went through that moment one early morning. I remember going to the office complex at the church. I'd been to several major cities throughout the United States, working youth, working with young people, and I was full-time with this church, helping as many young people as I could. And when I got to the church that early morning, there was an old car. It wasn't a very good looking car. It was one of those that was kind of run down. It was in the middle of the parking lot. It wasn't too close to the door, but it was right out in the middle of the parking lot. I didn't pay much attention to it. I thought, well, someone left their car there overnight. And so I parked my motorcycle and I walked up to the office complex, opened up the door, and I only had a few seconds to punch in the code so the alarm wouldn't go off. And I'm sure you're familiar with that scenario. And but as I was unlocking the door and I opened the door, as soon as I did, I heard this voice behind me, and this voice behind me was this young lady. And again, I don't talk about this much, but I thought maybe this may help somebody today, because I wanted to tell this story. And I tried several times today to start this live, and I stopped it. And I'm not doing this live because I'm anxious to do it. I'm doing it because I'm anxious not to. I'm actually anxious not to. Actually, I didn't want to do this live. But I felt so compelled to do it. I had to push beyond my feelings. I had to push beyond myself. I had to push beyond my emotions to do this live. So as I was walking into the church office complex, I was the first one there early in the morning, opened up the door, had so many seconds for the alarm to go off, so I had to punch in the code. And right at the time I'd unlocked the door and opened the door, I heard the voice behind me, and it was this young lady that was obviously the lady who was parked in the middle of the parking lot in this not so good condition car. She walks up to me and she hands me a grocery bag. It was a paper brown grocery bag. The ladies at the church had a phenomenal pantry that they worked consistently, handing out food all the time on the weekends to people who were needy. And, I thanked the lady for the grocery bag that she handed me. But what was so emotional about the moment as she was handing it to me, she held it up with both her hands and tears rolling down her cheeks. She said, "Please, please take this." And so I took it and I said, "Thank you." And I said, "Hold on one moment." And I held it in one hand and I walked through the door. I punched the code on the alarm system. And then I walked back out to just talk to the lady for just a moment, because I could tell she was very emotional. And she was already all the way back, halfway through the parking lot to her car. Her back to me, walking away as fast as she could. And so I thought in my mind, well, she didn't want to talk. I walked on into the church facilities, walked around a few hallways, few corners, made it to the kitchen area where there was a large, giant pantry space where they had about probably 12 deep freezers, and I'm thinking, okay, I've got these groceries, I'm going to leave it in the pantry. And so I set the paper bag down on one of the freezers, those big chest freezers. And as I did, I said, okay, I got to look into this in this bag, because it looked like way it moved in the bag, or the weight of it. I thought maybe I need to put it in the freezer to preserve whatever's in it. It felt, like it needed to do that. And so as I looked into the bag, my heart dropped. It was a moment that changed my life forever. The young lady apparently had given birth to a baby. And she decided she didn't want to just dump it in a dumpster somewhere, I guess, that the baby had passed away. And she brought it to the church. And I was there. Why was it me? Why was it her? I immediately went outside as quickly as I possibly could, and she was already gone. I did everything I possibly could to find out who she was. I never could find out who she was. The staff and I, we talked to each other, we communicated with each other. I worked it out with one of the local funeral homes to do a funeral for this baby. For years, I let that bother me, because turning that alarm off was more important than talking to her. I beat myself up for it for years. And at the same time, I think a lot of us do that. I think we want to fix the world. We want to fix relationships. We want to fix people. We want to fix everything around us and make it better. And some things are beyond our ability to fix them. And I had a difficult time accepting that. I didn't want to accept it. I recall probably 2 years after it happened, finally talking to someone about it. And it was like a weight of the world that came off of my shoulders when I got to the point where I could actually talk about it. I felt helpless. I felt like I didn't have any ability to do anything about the situation. And all that went through my mind was, what was that young lady going through? What was she going through? She was so thankful when she was handing me that paper grocery bag with all of her dreams in that bag. And just for a few seconds to keep an alarm from going off, I could have just let the alarm go off and talk to her, but I didn't. She could have stayed there a little longer because I said, hold on, let me turn the alarm off. She didn't. Sometimes we don't have the ability to change situations around us. There's some people that are friends of mine that I know very dearly that they would do anything they could to make our world better. And they wish they could just snap their fingers or just do something to make the world better. They love people. They love everyone. They want to make lives better. And those of us that are built that way, where we want to make lives better, one thing that we can assure ourselves, sometimes we're going to connect with people in our life that don't want a better life, or they don't want a better situation. I don't know what this woman wanted. I never knew. I never even knew her name. I never even knew her name. She walked away because she did what she came to do. I'm glad I looked into that paper sack now. At the time, I was a young guy. At the time, I almost let it tear my life apart. At the time, I felt helpless. And I hope you're okay with me sharing this on live. I just wanted to be candid with you because there was someone reached out to me the other day, and she was so upset. It's been a friend, her and her husband are friends of mine, been friends of mine for years, and she was upset because of she wants to help people, she wants to do things, but she doesn't have the financial resources to do everything she'd like to do, and she wants it just bothers her that she can't make the world better, And when somebody says something like that, that tells me their heart's in the right place. But she came back with a question: what can I do to make the world a better place? My response was, set the best example you possibly can for the next generation. But I know that answer was probably just as lame as to her as my statements to myself after I experienced what I did, because I wanted to change something and I couldn't change it. I wanted to bring life back to this little baby, and I couldn't do it. I wanted somehow to know this woman's story, and I couldn't. I couldn't because I didn't take the time. I made that choice. I made that decision. So I won't keep you long, but I just wanted to challenge you to realize something. You can make a difference in this world. You can spend your entire life making a difference. Every one of us. We may not be a big splash, but we can be a little bit of a ripple effect to the rest of the world if our heart's in the right place. And it's difficult for me to swallow a situation when I can't fix a situation. And sometimes people don't want to be fixed. And sometimes we don't take the time to even care. Sometimes they don't take the time to allow us to. Not everything is in your control. That is the hardest thing for me to accept at times, is that not everything is in a person's control to be able to correct something and make it better and to do our best for something. Sometimes we have no power in that scenario to do anything about it. Maybe being the fixer is not the best thing to do. Maybe the person that you want to fix, all they need is someone who's just there. Someone who understands. Someone who won't just sit there and give advice all the time, but maybe someone who would just listen. That day, I should have just listened. Sometimes that's the best thing we can do, is just listen. Anyway, God bless. Have a beautiful day.